Where's the dollar January 30th of next year?
So at this point in time, I think the action is really on the other side. The U.S. Path is more or less on autopilot right now.
Right.
So where the dollar will not be a function of the Fed, in our view. It's much more likely to be a function of what other central banks are doing. And in a broad sense right now, it's probably not going to be very far from where it is now in terms of the broad dollar index.
But there's two markets out there. There's developed countries, euro, yen, et cetera, normative, and there's this EM train wreck. Do you look at them in two discrete sets? Do they blend over like a Venn diagram, or are they one and the same?
In my view, some of these emerging market currencies, like, for example, the Chinese renminbi, are big enough now, or the Mexican peso, as a contributor to the broad dollar index, where you do have to look at it as all the same, in a sense. Clearly, a currency like the Turkish lira does not have enough impact on the broad dollar index to warrant looking at it in that way. But when you look at the big mix at this point in time, obviously there's some currencies like the Mexican peso that have a tailwind behind them right now. There's others like the Chinese renminbi that still are facing serious problems. And they're matching out. They're basically offsetting each other, which is why the dollar's going nowhere right now.
Shahab, what does renminbi do from here? And actually, does the fate of the emerging markets completely depend on whether China focuses on domestically instead of helping out the rest of the world?
Well, it's difficult to see an end, a conclusive end to renminbi weakness until the market is convinced that the worst is over in terms of the trade war threats that are coming out of the US, which is still coming out of the US at this point. Now, there's some optimism around the idea that this latest round of tariff threats from President Trump may just be part of a negotiation strategy. But then again, we've felt that for the whole year, and that didn't stop tariffs actually coming through. So in our view, the renminbi is likely to stay under some degree of pressure, at least for the next 2 to 3 months. And that, in terms of what it means for other countries around the world, or in currencies around the world, it's still, especially in the Asian space, is going to act as a drag. And in G10 terms, definitely currencies like the Australian dollar are suffering from this.
Shahab, overall, are there any markets or any currencies in the emerging market space that would be a good idea to get into now? Yes,
well, it's difficult to find conclusive cases at this point. The Mexican peso, for the time being, because of relatively high real rates and a relatively positive story around the deal that the US has made with Mexico, is popular and can gain further from this point. But many of the other currencies in the space have difficulties of varying sorts. As you can see, Turkey has managed to hike rates dramatically. It did what the market wanted from the central bank side. Is not getting the political support that the currency needs. Brazil, another big currency at this point, is facing a major election headwind. We feel we do need to get through some of these political gyrations before there's a clear case to get back into a broad swathe of emerging markets.